The 2025 announcement that could change everything about Alzheimer's, the silent epidemic destroying America. There's an enemy destroying millions of lives. Right now. It has no face, but it erases your most precious memories, makes you forget the people you love, and steals who you are. This enemy is Alzheimer's disease. Here are shocking statistics that will absolutely blow your mind. Every 65 seconds, someone in America develops Alzheimer's. Every single minute. That's 1440 new cases every day. Right now, as you're watching this video, 6.7 million Americans are battling this devastating disease. By 2050, that number could explode to 13 million Americans. We're talking about a tsunami of brain destruction heading our way like nothing humanity has ever seen. But here's what makes this even more terrifying. Alzheimer's isn't just destroying the patients, it's obliterating entire families. For every person with Alzheimer's, there are 11 million family caregivers watching their loved ones disappear right before their eyes. That's 73.5 million Americans whose lives are turned upside down by this monster. The economic devastation? A mind-numbing $321 billion annually in the United States alone. That's more than the GDP of entire countries. Healthcare costs, lost productivity, family caregiver expenses. Alzheimer's is literally bankrupting America one family at a time. For over a century, we've been losing this fight spectacularly. More than 300 failed drug trials. Over $600 billion spent on research with almost nothing to show for it. Families shattered, hope crushed, scientists baffled. The medical establishment humiliated by their complete inability to make any meaningful progress against this disease. But what if I told you all of that is about to change forever? Because in 2025, a single announcement could become the biggest breakthrough in the history of the fight against Alzheimer's. And the craziest part? The answer might be hiding in a drug that millions of people already use for something completely different. Today, we're going to uncover why a diabetes drug could be the secret weapon against Alzheimer's, what the insane studies called EVOKE are, why 2025 could be the year we finally turn the tide in this devastating war, and exactly what this means for you, your family, and millions of people around the world. Welcome to the channel where we don't just report the news. We decode the future of medicine and give you the insider knowledge that could literally save your life or the life of someone you love. And today, we're diving into what could be the most important medical story of our lifetime. Let me tell you about Dr. Sarah Chen, a brilliant neurologist and researcher I met at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference last year. Dr. Chen has spent 20 years on the front lines of this battle, watching families destroyed by this disease, having to tell thousands of patients and families that there was nothing she could do to stop the inevitable decline. She told me something that literally gave me chills. She said, "For 2 decades, I've been a witness to tragedy. I could slow the disease down slightly with existing medications, but I couldn't offer real hope. I couldn't look a family in the eye and tell them we had something that could actually change the trajectory of this disease. That's about to change." When I asked her why she was suddenly so optimistic, she smiled and said just 2 words: EVOKE results. Today, you'll understand exactly what she meant and why the entire medical world is holding its breath waiting for an announcement that could come any day now. But before we dive into this potential game changer, I need to know something from you, our incredible community. Drop a comment and tell me, what city or country are you watching from? I love seeing how far our message of hope and scientific breakthrough reaches around the globe. And here's something even more important. Have you or someone you love been affected by Alzheimer's or dementia? Have you watched a grandparent, parent, or spouse slowly fade away? Have you experienced that heartbreak of seeing someone you love become a stranger? Share your story with our community. Your experience could provide hope, insight, or just the knowledge that they're not alone to someone else facing this same battle. Together, we're stronger, and together, we're going to beat this thing. The story I'm about to tell you connects diabetes research, cutting-edge neuroscience, and hope in a way that nobody saw coming. It starts with a simple observation by a sharp-eyed researcher that turned into the most expensive bet in Alzheimer's research history. And the results could change everything we thought we knew about how the brain works, how it fails, and how we can protect it. But first, you need to understand just how massive and devastating this monster we're fighting really is, and why this potential breakthrough represents such a radical departure from everything we've tried before. Section 1. The devastating reality of Alzheimer's disease. A complete system breakdown. Let's talk about the real enemy, because most people have no idea how truly devastating and complex Alzheimer's disease actually is. This isn't just forgetting where you left your keys or struggling to remember a name. Alzheimer's is your brain literally shrinking, with physical brain tissue disappearing day by day, leaving behind a hollow shell of who you once were. The brutal, unvarnished statistics. 6.7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease right now as you watch this video. It's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, but 5th among Americans, 65 and older. Someone dies from Alzheimer's every 80 seconds. That's 1080 deaths every day. The economic cost is staggering, $321 billion annually in the United States alone. Women are disproportionately affected. Nearly 2/3 of Americans with Alzheimer's are women. 1 in 9 people aged 65 and older has Alzheimer's disease. For every person with Alzheimer's, there are 2 to 3 family members whose lives are completely transformed into full-time caregiving. But those numbers don't capture the generational impact. Currently, 11.2 million family caregivers provide 18.4 billion hours of unpaid care annually. That's equivalent to 9.2 million full-time jobs. These caregivers experience 60% higher rates of emotional stress and are twice as likely to develop depression themselves. The science of brain destruction. Here's what's actually happening inside an Alzheimer's brain, and why it's so much more complex than anyone originally understood. Imagine your brain as a bustling metropolis with 86 billion residents, neurons, all communicating through an intricate network of highways, roads, and pathways, synapses, carrying 100 trillion connections. This city processes 7,000 thoughts per day, stores decades of memories, and coordinates every function that keeps you alive and functioning. Now imagine that city under siege by multiple enemies attacking simultaneously. Enemy number 1, beta amyloid plaques, sticky protein fragments that accumulate between brain cells like massive roadblocks, cutting off communication between neurons. These plaques start forming 15-20 years before symptoms appear, silently destroying connections. Enemy number 2, tau tangles. Inside the neurons, another protein called tau begins forming twisted, thread-like tangles that choke the life out of cells from within. These tangles spread through the brain in a predictable pattern, destroying regions responsible for memory, learning, and eventually basic life functions. Enemy number 3, neuroinflammation. The brain's immune system goes haywire, creating chronic inflammation that destroys healthy tissue. Microglia, the brain's cleanup crew, become overactive and start attacking healthy neurons instead of protecting them. Enemy number 4, vascular damage. Blood vessels in the brain become damaged, reducing oxygen and nutrient delivery. This creates a cascade of cellular death and dysfunction. Enemy number 5, metabolic dysfunction. Brain cells lose their ability to process energy efficiently, literally starving to death even when surrounded by nutrients. The result? Mass cellular death and brain shrinkage. A healthy 75-year-old brain weighs about 1,400 grams. An Alzheimer's brain can shrink by 300 to 400 grams. Nearly a third of its mass simply disappears. The devastating human progression. But statistics and science don't capture the real horror of what families experience. Let me walk you through what actually happens. Stage 1, the silent phase, 10-15 years before symptoms. Brain changes begin, but the person functions normally. Plaques and tangles start forming. Brain begins compensating for early damage. No noticeable symptoms to family, or even the person. Stage 2, mild cognitive impairment, 2 to 4 years. Forgetting recent conversations or events. Difficulty with complex tasks like managing finances, getting lost in familiar places. Personality changes become noticeable. Depression and anxiety often develop. Stage 3. Mild Alzheimer's disease. 2 to 4 years. Increased memory loss and confusion. Problems recognizing family and friends. Difficulty learning new things. Trouble organizing thoughts and thinking logically, may become suspicious, agitated, or depressed. Stage 4. Moderate Alzheimer's disease. 2 to 10 years. Increased confusion and memory loss. Cannot recognize family members. Difficulty with language, reading, writing. May become anxious, aggressive, or restless. May wander and become lost. Stage 5. Severe Alzheimer's disease. 1 to 3 years. Cannot communicate coherently, requires assistance with basic activities. May have difficulty swallowing, becomes vulnerable to infections, eventually loses ability to control bodily functions. The century of scientific failure. For over 100 years, since Dr. Alois Alzheimer first described the disease in 1906 by examining the brain of Auguste Dater, a 51-year-old woman with severe dementia, scientists have been laser-focused on those plaques and tangles. The logic seemed bulletproof. If we just cleaned up this brain junk, we could cure the disease. This led to what I call the Great Amyloid Chase, a scientific obsession that consumed decades and billions of dollars. The failed drug hall of shame, solanezumab, Eli Lilly, failed in phase 3 trials, despite clearing amyloid bapineuzumab. Pfizer, J&J, caused brain swelling, no cognitive benefit crenezumab. Roche, stopped early due to futility aducanumab. Biogen, controversially approved despite mixed results, donanemab, Eli Lilly. Recently approved but with limited benefits and serious side effects. These drugs did successfully clear amyloid plaques from the brain. Mission accomplished, right? Wrong. People kept getting worse at essentially the same rate. It was like successfully removing graffiti from a burning building while completely ignoring the raging fire inside. The scientific community was devastated. Pharmaceutical companies lost hundreds of billions of dollars. Families were heartbroken, and researchers began to wonder if they had been chasing the wrong target for an entire century. The economic catastrophe. The failure to find effective treatments has created an economic disaster. Annual costs, $321 billion in the US, projected to reach $1 trillion by 2050. Medicare costs. Alzheimer's patients cost Medicare 3 times more than other seniors' Medicaid costs. 1 in 4 Medicaid dollars goes to Alzheimer's and dementia care family out-of-pocket costs. Average $1,986 per year in additional expenses. Lost productivity. Family caregivers lose $12 billion annually in wages. But in the middle of all these dead ends, something completely unexpected happened. A clue appeared from the most unlikely place, diabetes research, and it changed everything we thought we knew about this disease. Section 2. The revolutionary discovery. When diabetes research cracked the Alzheimer's code, the breakthrough observation that changed everything. The biggest clue didn't come from a prestigious Alzheimer's research laboratory at Harvard or Johns Hopkins. It came from diabetes researchers analyzing massive healthcare databases. And it started with an observation so unexpected that the first scientists who noticed it thought there had to be a mistake in their data. Dr. Rachel Whitmer at Kaiser Permanente was studying diabetes complications when she noticed something weird in the data. People with type 2 diabetes taking a new class of drugs called GLP-1 receptor agonists had dramatically lower rates of Alzheimer's disease and dementia. We're talking 40–70% reduction in risk. That's not just statistically significant, that's earth-shattering for any medical intervention. At first, researchers thought it might be a fluke. Maybe people on these newer, more expensive drugs were just healthier overall, had better access to healthcare, or were more compliant with medical recommendations. But as more studies poured in from different countries, different populations, and different healthcare systems, the pattern held strong. The Ozempic connection. You've definitely heard of Ozempic, right? Its active ingredient, semaglutide, belongs to this GLP-1 class. Originally designed to mimic GLP-1, a hormone produced in your intestines that makes you feel full and helps control blood sugar, It became a massive success for diabetes and obesity treatment. Hollywood celebrities were using it for weight loss, demand skyrocketed, and Novo Nordisk became one of the most valuable pharmaceutical companies in the world. But then, scientists noticed this completely unexpected brain protection effect, and everything changed. The shocking revelation. Type 3 diabetes. Here's where the story gets absolutely mind-blowing and where everything we thought we knew about Alzheimer's gets turned upside down. Some cutting-edge researchers, led by Dr. Suzanne de la Monte at Brown University, started calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes, or diabetes of the brain. This wasn't just a catchy nickname. It represented a fundamental reconceptualization of what Alzheimer's actually is. Let me explain why this changes everything. Your brain, the ultimate energy monster. Your brain represents only 2% of your total body weight, but it consumes a staggering 20% of your body's total energy. That's like a small city consuming the electricity of an entire state. This energy comes primarily from glucose, blood sugar, and insulin is the master key that unlocks the door to let that glucose into brain cells. The insulin resistance catastrophe. In type 2 diabetes, muscle and fat cells become resistant to insulin. They stop responding to insulin's signal to take up glucose from the bloodstream. Scientists have now discovered that in Alzheimer's disease, something catastrophic and similar happens in the brain. Brain cells become insulin resistant. Think about this for a moment. Brain cells are literally starving to death while surrounded by fuel they can't access. It's like having a car with a full gas tank, but a completely broken fuel pump. The engine seizes up and dies, not from lack of fuel, but from inability to use the fuel that's sitting right there. The glucose metabolism breakdown. Research using advanced brain imaging, PET scans, shows that Alzheimer's brains have severely reduced glucose uptake, sometimes 40–50% less than healthy brains. This happens in the exact same brain regions where amyloid plaques and tau tangles accumulate. Coincidence? Scientists now think not. The inflammatory inferno. But insulin resistance is just part of the story. The Alzheimer's brain is also consumed by chronic, uncontrolled inflammation. Imagine a fire that never goes out, slowly destroying everything in its path. This neuroinflammation creates a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. Initial trigger, amyloid, tau, or metabolic stress, activates immune cells. Immune cells release inflammatory chemicals that damage neurons. Damaged neurons release more inflammatory signals. More immune cells get activated. The cycle accelerates until it becomes an unstoppable inflammatory wildfire. Traditional anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen or prednisone couldn't effectively cross the blood-brain barrier to reach the inflamed brain tissue. But GLP-1 drugs, they're like molecular ninjas. They slip right past the brain's security system and start putting out fires. The multi-target miracle. Here's what makes semaglutide and other GLP-1 drugs so revolutionary. They don't just do one thing. They're like a Swiss Army knife for the brain, attacking Alzheimer's through multiple mechanisms simultaneously. 1. Insulin sensitivity. Restoration. Helps brain cells regain their ability to use glucose efficiently. Restores energy production in starving neurons. Improves overall brain metabolism. 2. Powerful anti-inflammatory effects. Crosses the blood-brain barrier. Effectively, reduces microglial activation, brain immune cells, decreases production of inflammatory cytokines, protects against oxidative stress. 3. Neuroprotection and repair, promotes growth of new neural connections, neuroplasticity, supports survival of existing neurons, may help repair damaged synapses, enhances brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. 4. Amyloid and tau effects, may help clear amyloid plaques, the traditional target, could reduce tau tangle formation, improve cellular cleanup mechanisms, autophagy. 5. Vascular protection, improves blood flow to the brain, protects blood vessel integrity, reduces risk of microstrokes, supports the blood-brain barrier. The overwhelming real-world evidence. Study. Number 1. The Million-Patient Bombshell. A 2024 study published in Alzheimer's and Dementia analyzed electronic health records from over 1 million patients with type 2 diabetes. The results were staggering. Patients taking semaglutide had a 70% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's compared to those on insulin. They had a 40% lower risk compared to those on other diabetes medications. The protective effect was seen across all age groups, races, and genders. Benefits appeared within the first year of treatment. Study number 2, the Veterans Affairs Database. Another 2024 study examined nearly 2,000 veterans with diabetes. GLP-1 drug users had significantly lower rates of neurocognitive disorders. The effect was strongest in patients who used the medications longest. Benefits were seen even in patients with existing mild cognitive impairment. Study number 3, the Oxford Analysis. Researchers at Oxford University analyzed data from about 100,000 patients. Semaglutide users had a 48% lower dementia risk compared to those taking sitagliptin. The protective effect was sustained over multiple years. Benefits were independent of weight loss or blood sugar control. Study number 4, the long-term follow-up. A 2025 meta-analysis of multiple studies found short-term studies under 1 year showed limited cognitive effects. Long-term studies, 2+ years, showed consistent cognitive protection. The longer patients used GLP-1 drugs, the greater the benefits. Effects were strongest when treatment started, before cognitive symptoms appeared. The biological plausibility. Unlike the amyloid-focused drugs that failed, the diabetes-brain connection makes perfect biological sense. Shared risk factors. Type 2. Diabetes doubles. Alzheimer's risk. Obesity increases dementia risk by 80%. Insulin resistance is present in 80% of Alzheimer's patients. High blood sugar damages brain blood vessels. Chronic inflammation links both diseases. Shared cellular pathways. Both diseases involve insulin signaling problems. Both feature chronic inflammation. Both show mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular energy problems. Both involve oxidative stress and cellular damage. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place with stunning clarity. This wasn't just correlation. There were clear, logical, biological mechanisms explaining why these drugs protected the brain. The diabetes-brain connection had revealed a completely new battlefield in the war against Alzheimer's. But observational studies, no matter how large or impressive, aren't enough to change medical practice or convince regulatory agencies. To prove that semaglutide could actually treat Alzheimer's disease in humans, researchers needed to conduct the ultimate test, a randomized controlled clinical trial. That's when Novo Nordisk, the Danish pharmaceutical giant behind semaglutide, made the biggest bet in Alzheimer's research history. Hold on. If this diabetes-brain connection just completely blew your mind, you need to subscribe right now. We're at the absolute forefront of the most exciting medical breakthroughs happening on our planet today, and I don't want you to miss a single discovery that could change your life or the life of someone you love. We're talking about potential breakthroughs that could literally rewrite medical textbooks and give hope to millions of families who thought there was none. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because when those EVOKE trial results drop sometime in 2025, you'll be among the first to know what they mean and how they could impact your family's future. Join our community of health warriors who refuse to accept incurable as the final answer. Subscribe now, and let's change the world together. Section 3. The Ultimate Gamble, the EVOKE Studies. Deep Dive, the billion-dollar bet that could change history. Novo Nordisk faced a decision that would literally define the future of their company and potentially the future of Alzheimer's treatment worldwide. They could play it safe and stick to their wildly profitable diabetes and obesity markets, where semaglutide was already making them tens of billions of dollars annually. Or they could risk everything on the biggest, most expensive gamble in pharmaceutical history, testing whether their diabetes drug could actually slow or stop Alzheimer's disease. They chose the gamble. And when I say gamble, I mean it in the most literal sense possible. The staggering financial commitment. The complete EVOKE program will cost an estimated $2 to $3 billion to complete. To put that in perspective, that's more than the annual GDP of some countries. It's equivalent to building 4 to 5 major hospitals. It represents 15 to 20% of Novo Nordisk's annual research budget. If it fails, it could be the most expensive drug development failure in history. But if it succeeds, the Alzheimer's treatment market could be worth $50 to $100 billion annually. More importantly, it could save millions of lives and families from devastation. The EVOKE trial architecture, unprecedented scale, EVOKE, primary study. The main event, participants, 1840, people with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. Duration, 2 years of active treatment. Locations, over 200 research centers across North America, Europe, and Asia. Design, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, the absolute gold standard, primary completion, expected September 2025, EVOKE Plus, extension study. Going deeper, additional participants, 1850. People with early Alzheimer's focus, long-term safety and efficacy evaluation. Duration, up to 3 years total follow-up. Objective, understanding long-term effects and optimal duration. The global reach. This isn't just a US or European study. EVOKE spans multiple continents. United States, 89 research centers Canada, 12 research centers United Kingdom, 24 research centers Germany, 18 research centers France, 15 research centers Spain, 12 research centers Italy, 10 research centers Netherlands, 8 research centers. Denmark, 6 research centers. Australia, 8 research centers. Japan, 14 research centers. The incredibly strict participant selection. These aren't just any Alzheimer's patients. Getting into EVOKE required meeting incredibly strict criteria that eliminated 95% of potential participants. Inclusion criteria. Age, 50-85 years old. Confirmed early-stage Alzheimer's disease, not just mild cognitive impairment. Positive biomarkers for both amyloid and tau proteins in brain scans or spinal fluid. MMSE, score between 20-26, mild cognitive impairment range. Stable on current medications for at least 12 weeks. Reliable caregiver available for the entire study duration. Willing to undergo multiple brain scans, blood draws, and cognitive testing. Exclusion criteria. Other forms of dementia, vascular, Lewy body, frontotemporal, major psychiatric conditions, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, history of stroke or significant brain injury, uncontrolled diabetes, HbA1c, 10%, kidney or liver disease, recent history of cancer, use of other experimental drugs within 30 days. The revolutionary study design. Randomization process. Half the participants, 9 and 20 people, receive daily oral semaglutide starting at 3 mg and escalating to 14 mg daily over 16 weeks. The other half receive an identical-looking placebo pill. The critical aspect. Absolutely no one knows who's getting what. Not the patients, not their families, not the doctors, not the nurses, not even the researchers analyzing the data until the very end. The escalation schedule, weeks 1-4, 3 mg daily, weeks 5-8, 7 mg daily, weeks 9-12, 10 mg daily, weeks 13-16, 14 mg daily, weeks 17, 104, 14 mg daily, maintenance dose. Comprehensive outcome measurements, primary endpoints, the main questions, ADAS-Cog 14, Alzheimer's disease assessment scale, cognitive subscale, 14-item version, tests, memory, language, orientation, reasoning, administered every 13 weeks, primary measure of cognitive decline, CDR-SB, clinical dementia rating scale, sum of boxes evaluates functional abilities in daily life, assesses memory, orientation, judgment, problem solving, completed by clinicians based on patient and caregiver interviews. Secondary endpoints, additional critical measures. Brain volume changes, MRI scans every 6 months, measuring whole brain volume, hippocampal volume, tracking rate of brain shrinkage, biomarker analysis, blood tests for tau, neurofilament light, GFAP, CSF analysis, optional spinal taps, for amyloid and tau, PET scans, for amyloid and tau burden, quality of life measures, ADCS-ADL, activities of daily living scale, NPI, neuropsychiatric inventory, QOL-AID, quality of life in Alzheimer's disease scale, caregiver impact, caregiver burden assessment, time spent on caregiving activities, caregiver quality of life measures, Safety monitoring. Unprecedented oversight. Because this represents completely uncharted territory, safety monitoring is paramount. Independent Safety Monitoring Board, 5 world-renowned experts in neurology, statistics, and drug safety. Monthly safety reviews of all adverse events. Power to stop the trial immediately if safety concerns arise. Quarterly efficacy reviews to assess futility. Real-time safety tracking. 24/7 adverse event reporting system. Immediate medical attention for any concerning symptoms. Regular safety labs monitoring liver, kidney, pancreatic function. Cardiovascular monitoring given known GLP-1 effects. Known potential side effects. Being monitored. Gastrointestinal, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, most common with GLP-1 drugs. Pancreatitis, rare but serious inflammation of the pancreas. Gallbladder problems, increased risk of gallstones. Thyroid effects, potential thyroid tumors, seen in animal studies. Kidney function, monitoring for any decline. Eye problems, diabetic retinopathy progression. The Global Collaboration Network. This isn't just Novo Nordisk working alone. The EVOKE trials represent an unprecedented global collaboration. Academic partners, Harvard Medical School, Massachusetts General Hospital, Mayo Clinic, Rochester, Minnesota, University of California, San Francisco, Johns Hopkins University, Imperial College, London Karolinska Institute, Stockholm, University of Copenhagen, regulatory collaborators, FDA, United States, Special Protocol Assessment granted EMA, European Union, Scientific Advice received PMDA, Japan, Regulatory Guidance obtained Health Canada, Clinical Trial Authorization, Patient Advocacy, Partners, Alzheimer's Association, Patient Recruitment and Education, USA Against Alzheimer's, Advocacy and Awareness, Alzheimer's Disease, International, Global Coordination, local Alzheimer's organizations in each participating country. The enrollment marathon. Finding nearly 4,000 people who met the incredibly strict criteria wasn't easy. It took over 30 months to fully enroll both studies. Some statistics about enrollment. Over 15,000 people were initially screened, 75% were excluded due to not meeting medical criteria. Average participant age, 71 years old. Gender distribution, 52% female, 48% male. Geographic distribution, 60% North America, 30% Europe, 10% Asia-Pacific. Education level, 65% college educated or higher. Racial ethnic diversity, 78% white, 12% Hispanic, 6% Black, 4% Asian. Families traveled hundreds of miles to participate. Some participants relocated temporarily to be closer to study sites. The commitment required is enormous. Monthly clinic visits for 2+ years, extensive cognitive testing every 13 weeks, brain MRI scans every 6 months, optional spinal taps for biomarker analysis, daily medication administration, and tracking. The historical context, why this is so unprecedented. To understand how massive this undertaking is, consider the history of Alzheimer's clinical trials. Traditional Alzheimer's trials, typical size, 200-800 participants. Typical duration, 6 to 18 months. Typical cost, $50,200 million. Success rate, less than 1%. EVOKE program, size, nearly 4,000 participants. Duration, 2 to 3 years. Cost, $2 to $3 billion. Scope, 12 countries, 200+ centers. Precedent, nothing even close in Alzheimer's research. The competitive pressure. Novo Nordisk isn't the only company betting on the GLP-1 brain connection. Eli Lilly is testing tirzepatide, Mounjaro, in smaller Alzheimer's studies. Roche is developing next-generation GLP-1 analogs specifically for brain protection. Several biotech companies are working on brain-penetrant GLP-1 formulations. But EVOKE represents by far the largest, most comprehensive, and most expensive bet on this approach. The moment of truth approaches. Everything hinges on what's called the database lock. The moment when all patient visits are completed, all data is entered, and the blind is broken. That moment is coming in 2025, and it will either vindicate this bold new approach or send researchers back to the drawing board. The entire medical world will be watching. Patients and families around the globe will be holding their breath. And the future of Alzheimer's treatment hangs in the balance. Section 4. The Decisive 2025 Announcement. Scenarios and implications. The countdown to medical history. Somewhere between September and December 2025, Novo Nordisk will hold the unblinding process, how the most important moment in Alzheimer's research will unfold. Phase 1. Database lock. Estimated August-September 2025. All 4,000 participants complete their final visits. All cognitive tests, brain scans, and lab results are entered. Data undergoes quality control and verification. Any missing or questionable data is resolved. Database is officially locked. No more changes possible. Phase 2. Statistical analysis, 4 to 6 weeks. Independent statisticians receive the locked database. Complex statistical models are run on supercomputers. Primary and secondary endpoints are analyzed. Safety data is comprehensively reviewed. Results are prepared in multiple formats. Phase 3. Internal results, review, 1-2 weeks. Novo Nordisk executives see the data for the first time. Clinical teams interpret the statistical results. Medical writers prepare presentation materials. Strategic decisions about announcements are made. Legal and regulatory teams review communications. Phase 4. Regulatory notification, 1 week. FDA, EMA, and other regulatory agencies get advance notice. Required safety reports are filed. Preliminary regulatory discussions begin. Plans for potential drug submissions are activated. Phase 5. Public announcement, the big moment. Press release issued before market-opening scientific presentation at major medical conference. Detailed results published in top-tier medical journal. Executive interviews with major media outlets. Stock market and investment community reactions. The success criteria. What constitutes a win? For the EVOKE trial to be considered successful, semaglutide must demonstrate statistical significance. P-value less than 0.05, less than 5% chance results are due to random chance. Confidence intervals that don't cross 0. Consistent results across multiple outcome measures. Clinical meaningfulness. At least 20-30% reduction in cognitive decline rate. Meaningful differences in daily functioning. Benefits that patients and families can actually perceive. Acceptable safety profile. No unexpected serious side effects. Benefits clearly outweigh risks. Manageable and treatable adverse events. Dose response. Relationship. Clear evidence that the drug effect caused the benefits. Biological plausibility of the results. Consistent effects across different patient subgroups. Detailed scenario analysis. Scenario 1. Absolute success. Probability 20-30%. Semaglutide shows 40-60% reduction in cognitive decline. Immediate reactions. Stock market explosion. Novo Nordisk could gain $150–200 billion in market value overnight. Medical community euphoria. First truly disease-modifying Alzheimer's treatment. Media frenzy. Front page of every major newspaper and magazine. Worldwide patient advocacy celebration. Alzheimer's Association declares new era of hope. Regulatory fast track. FDA breakthrough therapy designation, granted within weeks. Priority review, 6 months instead of standard 12. Accelerated approval pathway, potentially available. European EMA parallel review process. Initiated global regulatory submissions, prepared simultaneously. Healthcare system preparation. Emergency planning for massive treatment demand. Specialist training programs rapidly develop. Diagnostic infrastructure scaling up immediately. Insurance coverage debates beginning in earnest. Economic implications. Alzheimer's treatment market instantly becomes $30–50 billion annually. Healthcare cost savings. Potential $50–100 billion saved in long-term care costs. Biotech investment boom. Hundreds of billions flowing into brain metabolic research. Competitive response. Every major pharma company pivoting to similar approaches. Scenario 2. Strong success. Probability 30–40%. Semaglutide shows 25–40% reduction in cognitive decline. Scientific vindication. Proof of concept for metabolic approach to Alzheimer's. Established paradigm shift from amyloid-focused to metabolism-focused research foundation for next-generation drugs with even better results. Hope for millions of families worldwide for the first time. Regulatory pathway. Standard FDA review, but with high priority, strong regulatory support. given unmet medical need. Conditional approvals possible in some countries. Post-marketing studies required to confirm long-term benefits. Market response, significant but measured optimism in financial markets. Competitor acceleration of similar research programs. Investment in early detection technologies and biomarkers. Healthcare system planning for implementation. Research acceleration. Massive funding increases for metabolic brain research. Combination therapy studies launched immediately. Prevention trials in high-risk populations. Initiated biomarker development programs. Expanded Scenario 3. Modest success. Probability 25-35%. Semaglutide shows 15 to 25% reduction in cognitive decline. Mixed but positive reception. First meaningful progress in Alzheimer's treatment in decades. Statistical significance achieved, but clinical impact debated. Regulatory challenges regarding cost-benefit analysis, patient advocacy, cautious optimism, regulatory complexity, extended FDA review with multiple advisory committee meetings. Risk-benefit analysis becomes central to approval decision. Subgroup analysis to identify patients most likely to benefit. Post-marketing requirements for additional efficacy data. Clinical implementation challenges. Patient selection criteria become critically important. Cost-effectiveness debates with insurance companies. Specialist training on appropriate patient identification. Monitoring requirements for side effect management. Scenario 4. Mixed results. Probability 15-25%. Some benefits but concerning side effects or benefits only in specific subgroups. Regulatory uncertainty. FDA Advisory Committee divided on recommendation. Extended review period. While additional data is collected. Risk evaluation and mitigation strategy, REMS, potentially required. Limited approval for specific patient populations, possible. Scientific debate. Academic conferences filled with heated discussions. Medical journal editorials, debating risk-benefit ratios. Patient selection biomarkers, become research priority. Refined study designs for future trials. Market caution, measured investor response, pending regulatory clarity. Competitor wait-and-see approach before major investments. Healthcare system hesitation about implementation planning. Scenario 5. Failure, probability 10 or 15%. No significant difference between drug and placebo groups. Scientific disappointment, but not despair. Valuable negative data to guide future research directions. Continued belief in diabetes-brain connection based on observational data. Focus shift to other GLP-1 drugs, different doses, or earlier intervention. Research community regrouping, but not abandoning the approach. Financial impact. Novo Nordisk stock decline, but company remains strong in other markets. Biotech sector cooling, but continued investment in alternative approaches. Research funding potentially redirected to other targets. Regulatory and clinical response. FDA and researchers analyzing data to understand why observational benefits didn't translate to clinical trial success. Study design critiques and recommendations for future trials. Continued investigation of GLP-1 drugs in prevention rather than treatment. The global announcement strategy. When results are announced, Novo Nordisk has planned a comprehensive global communication strategy. Primary announcement. Press release issued simultaneously in multiple languages. Scientific presentation at major medical conference, likely CTAD or AAIC. Peer-reviewed publication in New England Journal of Medicine or Lancet. Media blitz. Executive interviews on major news networks. Medical expert panels explaining the significance. Patient and family testimonials from trial participants. Interactive webinars for healthcare professionals. Stakeholder communications. Regulatory agency briefings with detailed data packages. Investor calls with financial analysts. Healthcare provider education materials and training. Patient advocacy group coordination and messaging. The broader implications for neuroscience. Whatever the results, EVOKE represents a fundamental shift in how we approach neurodegenerative diseases. If successful, validates metabolic approach to brain health across diseases, accelerates research into Parkinson's, ALS, and other conditions. Shifts focus from symptom management to disease modification, establishes new research paradigms connecting body and brain health. If unsuccessful, provides crucial data about what doesn't work and why, guides future study designs and patient selection, maintains momentum in metabolic brain health research, informs next-generation drug development approaches. We are literally witnessing medical history in the making. The next 6 to 12 months could bring the most important health breakthrough of our lifetime, and I'll be here covering every development, every study result, every regulatory decision as it happens in real time. Don't miss a single update that could impact you or someone you love. Smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because when this announcement drops, you'll want to understand exactly what it means for your family's future, how to access treatment if it's successful, and what steps you can take right now to protect your brain health. Join the thousands of subscribers who are staying ahead of the biggest medical breakthroughs. Subscribe now and let's navigate this incredible journey together. Section 5. The Revolutionary Future, Life After a Successful EVOKE Announcement. The dawn of a new medical era. Let's imagine for a moment that we're living in early 2026 and the impossible has happened. The EVOKE results were announced in December 2025, and they exceeded everyone's wildest expectations. Semaglutide didn't just slow Alzheimer's disease, it dramatically slowed it, giving families years more time with their loved ones while maintaining quality of life. What happens next would reshape not just Alzheimer's treatment, but our entire approach to brain health and aging. Immediate healthcare transformation, 2026, the 100-day sprint. Within 100 days of positive results, the medical world would be in overdrive. Days, 1 to 30, emergency regulatory response, FDA breakthrough therapy designation granted within 72 hours, rolling submission of clinical data begins immediately. European EMA accelerated assessment procedure, initiated Health Canada priority review process, activated Japanese PMDA parallel review coordination, established days 31 to 60. Healthcare system mobilization. Emergency medical education programs launched, specialist training on patient selection and monitoring, hospital and clinic preparation for increased demand. Supply chain scaling up for global distribution. Insurance companies, emergency coverage policy development, days 61-100. Implementation. Planning treatment protocols developed and distributed. Patient registries established for real-world data collection. Safety monitoring systems deployed nationwide. Cost-effectiveness analyses completed for payers. International treatment access programs designed. The diagnosis revolution. Success would make early detection absolutely critical, triggering a diagnostic revolution. Blood-based biomarker explosion. Routine cognitive screening becomes standard at age 50+. Annual blood tests for tau, neurofilament light, and other brain biomarkers. AI-powered analysis of biomarker patterns for risk prediction. Home testing kits for early brain health monitoring. Smartphone-based cognitive assessments integrated into healthcare. Advanced imaging integration. Brain PET scans become more accessible and affordable. MRI protocols optimized for early disease detection. Retinal imaging for brain health assessment. Eyes as windows to the brain. Digital biomarkers from speech patterns, typing, and movement genetic testing expansion. Comprehensive genetic panels for Alzheimer's risk. Polygenic risk scores, calculating individual lifetime risk. Family counseling programs for high-risk individuals. Preventive intervention strategies based on genetic profiles. Treatment. Paradigm revolution. From treatment to prevention, the focus would shift dramatically from treating disease to preventing it. Primary prevention, age 50-65. Metabolic optimization as standard preventive care. Lifestyle interventions, targeting insulin resistance. Nutritional counseling for brain-healthy diets. Exercise prescriptions optimized for brain protection. Stress management programs focused on neuroinflammation, reduction. Secondary prevention, early biomarker changes. Pre-symptomatic treatment for people with positive biomarkers. Precision medicine approaches based on individual risk profiles. Combination therapies addressing multiple pathways. Regular monitoring and dose optimization. Tertiary prevention, early symptoms. Immediate treatment initiation upon first cognitive changes. Aggressive metabolic management to maximize brain protection. Cognitive training and rehabilitation programs. Family support and caregiver education. The pharmaceutical arms race. immediate competitor. Response: every major pharmaceutical company would pivot immediately. Eli Lilly would accelerate tirzepatide brain studies. Roche would fast-track next-generation GLP-1 analogs. Pfizer would launch massive metabolic brain research programs. Johnson & Johnson would acquire biotech companies in the space Merck would develop. Combination therapies: AbbVie would invest billions in similar approaches. Next-generation drug development: brain-optimized GLP-1 drugs designed specifically for neurological conditions. Combination therapies targeting multiple brain pathways simultaneously. Personalized medications based on individual genetic and biomarker profiles. Long-acting formulations reducing dosing frequency. Oral alternatives to injection-based treatments. The economic earthquake: healthcare cost. Transformation: the economics of Alzheimer's care would be completely transformed. Short-term costs: years 1 to 5. Treatment costs: $50–100 billion annually for drug therapy. Diagnostic costs: $20–30 billion for increased testing and monitoring. Infrastructure costs: $10–15 billion for healthcare system upgrades. Training costs: $5–10 billion for medical education and implementation. Long-term savings: years 5 to 20. Reduced nursing home costs: $200–300 billion in savings. Decreased family caregiver burden: $100–150 billion in productivity gains. Lower healthcare utilization: $50–75 billion in reduced hospitalizations. Extended working years: $300–400 billion in continued productivity. Insurance and access challenges. Medicare coverage negotiations and policy development. Medicaid state program implementation and funding. Private insurance formulary placement and coverage criteria. International pricing negotiations and access programs. Patient assistance programs for uninsured populations. Global health. Equity concerns. Developed nations. Healthcare system strain from sudden massive demand. Economic benefits from reduced long-term care costs. Workforce impacts from people staying productive longer. Research investment acceleration in brain health developing countries. Access inequality. How to ensure global availability. Healthcare infrastructure limitations and capacity building needs economic burden. Affordability for lower income nations. Brain drain prevention. Keeping trained healthcare workers. International collaboration. WHO, global initiatives for equitable access. Technology transfer programs for manufacturing capabilities. International funding mechanisms for treatment access. Research collaboration networks for continued innovation. The next frontier diseases. Immediate research. Expansion. Success with Alzheimer's would immediately trigger research into related conditions. Parkinson's disease. Clinical trials of GLP-1 drugs, already in planning movement disorder applications of metabolic therapies. Combination approaches with existing Parkinson's treatments. Prevention studies in high-risk populations. ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Metabolic dysfunction connections being investigated. Neuroprotection applications of GLP-1 therapy. Early intervention studies in genetic ALS cases. Quality of life improvements in existing patients. Multiple sclerosis. Neuroinflammation targets for GLP-1 therapy. Myelin repair potential applications. Progressive MS treatment development. Combination therapies with immunomodulatory drugs. Stroke recovery. Neuroprotection applications. In acute stroke recovery enhancement. In stroke rehabilitation. Prevention in high-risk populations. Cognitive protection. Post-stroke technology. Integration. Explosion. AI and machine learning. Treatment optimization algorithms for personalized dosing. Predictive models for treatment response. Early detection AI systems, analyzing multiple data streams. Drug discovery acceleration, using AI platforms. Digital therapeutics. Cognitive training apps enhancing drug effects. Lifestyle intervention platforms for brain health medication, adherence systems and reminders. Remote monitoring of cognitive function and side effects. Wearable technology. Continuous monitoring of biomarkers and cognitive function. Activity tracking optimized for brain health. Sleep optimization systems for neurological protection. Stress management devices for inflammation reduction. Telemedicine platforms. remote consultations for treatment monitoring, specialist access for underserved populations, family caregiver support and education, international treatment coordination, the social and cultural transformation, changing attitudes toward aging. Brain health becomes as important as physical fitness. Cognitive wellness becomes a mainstream concept. Aging in place becomes more achievable and common. Intergenerational planning shifts to longer healthy lifespans. Educational system changes, medical school curricula emphasizing metabolic brain health, nursing education programs for long-term brain health management, public health campaigns promoting brain-healthy lifestyles, community programs for cognitive wellness, workplace adaptations, extended career planning for longer productive years, age discrimination reduction as cognitive abilities are preserved, retirement planning shifts to account for longer healthy periods, workplace wellness programs, including brain health components. Section 6, what you can do right now. The immediate action plan. While we wait with anticipation for the EVOKE results, you absolutely don't have to sit on the sidelines hoping for the best. The groundbreaking research connecting diabetes, metabolism, and brain health has already revealed powerful, actionable strategies you can implement today to protect and enhance your brain health. The Metabolic Brain Optimization Protocol. Blood sugar mastery. The diabetes-brain connection means blood sugar control is critical for brain health. Glucose monitoring strategy, continuous glucose monitors like Dexcom G7 or Freestyle Libre, not just for diabetics anymore. Track how different foods affect your brain, fuel supply. Identify hidden blood sugar spikes from seemingly healthy foods. Optimize meal timing for stable brain energy. Target range, 70-120 millibrows DL for optimal brain function. Time-restricted eating, 12-hour eating window minimum for metabolic rest. 16.8 intermittent fasting for enhanced brain cleanup, autophagy. Longer fasts, 24-48 hours, monthly under medical supervision. Consistent meal timing to optimize circadian rhythms. Low glycemic nutrition. Mediterranean mind diet combination for brain protection. High fiber foods to slow glucose absorption. Healthy fats, omega-3s, olive oil, nuts for brain fuel. Avoid processed foods and added sugars completely. Limit refined carbohydrates that spike blood sugar. Exercise as brain medicine. High-intensity interval training. HIIT. 3 to 4 sessions weekly of 20-30 minutes. Mimics GLP-1 effects by improving insulin sensitivity, increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, promotes neuroplasticity and new brain cell growth. Example, 4 minutes hard effort, 2 minutes recovery. Repeat 4 to 6 times resistance training. 2 to 3 sessions weekly focusing on major muscle groups. Improves insulin sensitivity throughout the body and brain. Releases growth factors that protect brain cells. Maintains muscle mass critical for healthy aging. Progressive overload to continue benefits. Zone 2. Cardio, 150 plus minutes. Weekly of moderate intensity exercise. Conversational pace where you can still talk. Improves mitochondrial function in brain and body. Enhances glucose utilization by brain cells. Activities, brisk walking, cycling, swimming. Coordination and balance, Tai Chi, yoga, or dance for brain-body coordination. Balance challenges to strengthen neural pathways. Complex movement patterns that require cognitive processing. Fall prevention becomes increasingly important with age neuroinflammation reduction protocol. Anti-inflammatory nutrition, omega-3 fatty acids, 2 to 3 g daily from fish oil or algae berries. Blueberries, blackberries for antioxidants, leafy greens, spinach, kale for folate and antioxidants, turmeric with black pepper, curcumin for brain inflammation reduction, green tea, EGCG for neuroprotection, dark chocolate, 85% plus cacao, flavonoids for brain blood flow, stress management revolution, meditation, 10-20 minutes daily, proven to reduce brain inflammation, deep breathing, 4-7-8 technique for parasympathetic activation, nature exposure, 120 plus minutes weekly in natural settings, social connections, regular meaningful interactions reduce inflammatory markers, purpose and meaning, engagement in activities that provide life satisfaction, sleep optimization, 7 to 9 hours nightly for brain cleanup and memory consolidation, Consistent sleep schedule to optimize circadian rhythms. Cool, dark environment, 65-68 degrees, for optimal sleep quality. Blue light blocking 2 hours before bedtime. Sleep tracking to identify and address sleep disruptions. Early detection and monitoring. Cognitive assessment tools. Annual cognitive screening, starting at age 50. MOCA, Montreal Cognitive Assessment. Baseline and yearly follow-up digital cognitive tests, using apps like NeuroTrack or Peak Family Observation of subtle changes in memory or thinking. Professional evaluation, if any concerning changes noticed. Biomarker monitoring. Inflammatory markers, CRP, IL-6, TNF-alpha annually. Metabolic markers, HbA1c, fasting glucose, insulin levels. Lipid profiles, comprehensive cholesterol and triglyceride analysis. Vitamin levels, B12, D, folate critical for brain health. Hormone levels, thyroid, testosterone, estrogen affect brain function. Advanced testing, when available. Blood-based Alzheimer's biomarkers, tau, neurofilament light. Genetic testing for APOE4 and other risk variants. Brain imaging if cognitive changes or family history warrant. Comprehensive metabolic panels to identify correctable deficiencies. Supplement strategy, evidence-based brain protection, omega-3 fatty acids, 2,3-G daily DHA, EPA, vitamin D3, 2,000-4,000 IU daily, with blood level monitoring, B-complex vitamins, especially B12, folate, B6 magnesium, 400-600 mg daily for brain and cardiovascular health curcumin, 500-1,000 mg daily, with piperine for absorption. Emerging research supplements, nicotinamide riboside, NAD plus precursor, 250-500 mg daily lion's mane mushroom, 500-1,000 mg daily for nerve growth factor, phosphatidylserine, 100-200 mg daily for brain cell membrane health, alpha, GPC, 300-600 mg daily for acetylcholine production, resveratrol, 250-500 mg daily for antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, staying informed and connected. Clinical trial monitoring, clinicaltrials.gov, regular searches for brain health studies, patient advocacy groups, Alzheimer's Association, US Against Alzheimer's, research institution, newsletters and updates, medical conference reports and presentations, regulatory agency announcements and approvals, community building, brain health groups in your local community, online forums and support networks, educational seminars and workshops, volunteer opportunities with research organizations, advocacy activities to support research funding, preparing for breakthrough treatments, healthcare relationship, optimization, establish relationship with neurologist or geriatrician, document baseline cognitive and physical function, create healthcare proxy and advanced directive documents, insurance coverage review and optimization, medical records organization and accessibility, financial planning, long-term care insurance evaluation and consideration, healthcare savings accounts, maximization, treatment cost, budgeting and planning, family financial discussions and planning, legal documents, updating and preparation. We are literally living through what could be the most pivotal moment in the history of brain health and aging. The convergence of diabetes research and neuroscience has cracked open a door that was completely invisible just a decade ago, revealing possibilities that seemed like science fiction just a few years back. The magnitude of this historic moment. Think about where we stand right now in 2025. We could be just months away from the announcement that fundamentally changes everything we thought we knew about Alzheimer's disease. If EVOKE succeeds, we'll look back on this time period as the moment when humanity finally gained the upper hand in a war we've been losing for over a century. This isn't just about one drug or one company's success. This represents a complete paradigm shift in how we understand the brain, how it fails, and how we can protect it. The implications stretch far beyond Alzheimer's to potentially revolutionize how we approach Parkinson's disease, ALS, stroke recovery, and the entire process of brain aging. The ripple effects of hope. But perhaps most importantly, success would give families around the world something they've never had before. Genuine, scientifically backed hope. Hope that an Alzheimer's diagnosis doesn't have to mean rapid cognitive decline and loss of independence. Hope that we can buy precious additional years of quality time with our loved ones? Hope that the next generation might not have to face this devastating disease at all? Even if the results are mixed or the benefits are modest, we're witnessing the birth of an entirely new approach to brain health that connects the dots between metabolism, inflammation, and neurodegeneration in ways that make perfect biological sense. The power of knowledge and preparation. While we wait for these potentially world-changing results, you now have the knowledge and tools to take action immediately. The diabetes-brain connection isn't theoretical. It's supported by massive observational studies involving millions of patients. The lifestyle interventions I've shared aren't just good advice. They're based on the same scientific principles that could make semaglutide the first truly effective Alzheimer's treatment. You don't have to wait for a pharmaceutical solution to start protecting your brain. You can begin optimizing your metabolic health, reducing neuroinflammation, and building cognitive reserve today. Every day you delay is a day you're not taking advantage of what we already know works. Your role in this unfolding story. Information is our most powerful weapon against ignorance, despair, and defeat. Every person who understands the science behind these potential breakthroughs becomes an advocate for hope and an agent of change in their community. Every time you share accurate, science-based information about brain health, you're helping to replace fear with knowledge. Every time you encourage someone to take proactive steps for their brain health, you're potentially changing the trajectory of their life. Every time you support research funding or participate in advocacy, you're contributing to the scientific momentum that could benefit millions. The final challenge. As we stand on the brink of potentially the most important medical announcement of our lifetime, I have 3 critical requests for you. Smash that like button if this video opened your eyes to possibilities you didn't know existed. Help YouTube's algorithm show this life-changing information to more people who desperately need hope and knowledge. Share this video with anyone whose life has been touched by Alzheimer's, dementia, or concerns about brain health. Your sharing could literally be the catalyst that helps someone take action to protect their brain or gain hope for their future. Subscribe and ring that notification bell, because when those EVOKE results are announced, you'll want to be among the first to understand exactly what they mean, how they could impact your family's future, and what steps you can take immediately. The future of brain health is being written right now, in research laboratories, clinical trial centers, and regulatory agencies around the world. The most incredible chapter of the Alzheimer's story is about to be revealed, and whether it brings triumph, partial success, or temporary setback, we'll face it together as an informed, prepared, and hopeful community. History will remember 2025 as either the year we finally began to turn the tide against Alzheimer's disease, or the year we learned crucial lessons that guided us toward ultimate victory. Either way, the future starts with the decisions we make today, the actions we take now, and the hope we choose to carry forward. Thank you for being part of this incredible journey into the future of medicine. Until the next breakthrough, keep believing in the power of science to change the world, keep taking action to protect your brain health, and keep spreading hope to everyone whose life could be touched by these remarkable discoveries. The future of brain health is bright, and it starts today.